Welcome to another episode on the People Productivity Channel, where you are the product and a better you is a solution. Today, we're going to be talking about the preeminence of human agility in an uncertain world. To talk about that with us, we have a very special guest, John Healy. He is the VP and Managing Director, Office of the Future at Healey. Many of you probably know Healey as Healey Services. They service 90% of the Fortune 100. They are a global company, and Healey connects people with work in ways that enrich their lives. So John, maybe you could quickly introduce yourself just as we get going here.
Cool, thanks Frank, and happy to be with you today. So as you referenced, I lead what we call the Office of the Future of Work at Healey. And what that means for our organization, one, it's dealing with disruption. Our industry is facing disruption on a constant basis, but making sure that as a company, we're leaning into the change that's happening, kind of figuring our way through, looking at the new opportunities that are going to come about. So whether that's robotic process automation coming in and impacting things, or it's social change that's going on today. We really put our focus in four primary areas. One is the workforce, understanding the workforce and what they're up to. Second is the workplace, so the physical place where work gets done, and clearly that's changed for just about everyone as we've gone through this pandemic. Technology is the third dimension that we focus on, and again, that's another one, just this medium that we're communicating on. It's
just
so
the fact
cool.
we're able to do this so easily.
Absolutely. And then the fourth dimension is this idea of social norms, and whether that's what we're going through with diversity, equity, and inclusion, or it's right down to labor laws, AB 5 out in California, and the implications of that and how people connect with work. So those are the four areas that I spend my time really studying, researching, and using to help guide us to see where is the market going to evolve to, and how do we make sure we get better at fulfilling that noble purpose.
Yeah, and let's face it, we're in a time of incredibly quick evolution. Things have sped up so much in 2020. You know, the digital transformations that people talked about, hey, this is coming, it arrived, and we crossed that chasm very quickly to the point where it was work from anywhere suddenly.
Yeah, and that's been a really big issue for organizations. And now everyone's kind of trying to figure out that policy that was on the shelf for a long time suddenly got implemented. And now a real struggle to figure out, how do I balance that with wellness inside the organization, the cultural implications that you're going through, the people who are bringing, that are homeschooling, working, and dealing with older parents, all in the same place that was not designed to be an office. It's an amazing set of circumstances that we're seeing people navigate through right now, and I think we're going to learn a lot over these 12, 18, however many months it takes to get through this.
Yeah, and I think people are going to learn a lot about themselves. Companies are going to learn a lot about their businesses and their customers. So this is just a super interesting time, and human agility is driving much of the change. We see restaurants adapting to it. We see individuals adapting to it at home, schools adapting to it. And adaptation is really occurring. And agility is real. And it is one of the keys to survival. So I love this topic. And I know you've spent quite a bit of time looking into it.
Yeah, I'd say it began for us, Frank, in that we've heard companies talk about agility for a really long time. The large enterprise has been focused, whether it was first about seasonality and working through things, and then as Six Sigma came out, and agile and lean, and we started getting into all of that. And for us, it caused a little pause. It was actually with our product development team. We were sitting down and really going through kind of a design thinking session of implications. And it led to a question of, well, if companies need agility, what about people? What are they expecting for agility? And what we really modeled ourselves against was taking Maslow's hierarchy. And if we think about that hierarchy of needs, with base needs at the bottom end of it, and getting to the self-actualization at the top, we put human agility as that form of self-actualization, that I get to do what I want, where I want, when I want. But we also acknowledge this simple reality that for many who come to Healey, they need a job. They're part of this 26 million people who are unemployed right now. and I need something now. They're not worried necessarily about their perfect career job at that moment in time.
No.
They're worried about that sustainability level. I need to make sure I get food on the table, that I have what I need, or that we've got to deal with different circumstances because we can't have two spouses working from home, homeschooling 4 kids simultaneously, and everything going
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
need something different.
Yeah.
And so there's this, there's this hierarchy, but then there's all this positive and negative momentum that happens in between.
Hmm.
And that really got us going on exploring this idea of human agility and the things that are really impacting it, particularly in this time where we're living in unprecedented change.
And I like how you've defined the model because, every new age, people look at things a little differently. This whole notion of sustainability leading to momentum and eventually giving way to agility.
Yeah,
That's interesting, because agility resonates a lot more than self-actualization, especially for companies.
yeah. Oh, without question.
Yeah.
But we've all heard the term gig economy.
Yeah.
There's a woman, Lee Jin at Andreessen Horowitz, VC firm, that published a great article on the passion economy and how many people have built businesses because of the technology that's made available about something that they really want to do.
Oh gosh, they're
And
some
this
of the most
idea that,
successful businesses.
yeah, that I get to pursue what I really want. And some of these barriers that have been in front of me, they've gone away. And if I can pursue my personal passion,
Mhm.
the level of energy that you're going to get in that business, the level of commitment, those are where you see some of the best and brightest business. That's where our entrepreneurial spirit in this country has made such a difference to growing that
Unbelievable.
small and mid-sized firm throughout the years, that
What's
it really sparks that focus on the human part of
Yeah,
this.
this whole notion of organizational energy being a key driver, which is really, really true, and you've got passion and mood coming together to create this energy within a company or even, within an individual's own space.
Yeah. And
Without a doubt.
then if you add to that all the opportunities for connection and collaboration right now,
That's right.
that this hierarchical society that we've lived in for so long, whether that's our government, our religion, or our
Uh-huh.
families, they've all had boxes and lines that kind of pointed to where each other
Absolutely.
are, and we now don't have to follow the rules of the boxes and lines. Anyone can have a conversation with anyone. People have been humanized. It's
It's the
in our
rehumanization of,
European operations, they really stood out and recognized the number of customers when they were talking to a C-suite executive in their
Mhm.
customer who had a makeshift desk on their kitchen table and was dressed in casual clothes, that suddenly became very human
Yes.
instead of this lofty executive in some C-suite on the top floor. That changes how we feel comfortable communicating with people and the candor we can have in these conversations. And that's opened up quite a bit for people to enable that agility, to enable the comfort in having conversations across entirely different connections than they had in the past.
Yeah, and the ability to actually reach all of these people in a very, very low cost way, to get a
Mm-hmm.
message out, to communicate, to inspire broad swaths of people and
Yeah, so,
create followership. I mean, this is really a big, big change.
yeah, so,
Many
so look at
leaders,
yeah, look at the crowdsourcing platforms that are out there right now.
they're incredible.
You know, are you out there saying, you know what, there might be people outside my organization that are better qualified to help me think differently about solving a problem I've just struggled with, or that as a company, when we get together internally, we just can't figure that out. Now, maybe I open it up to a
Yeah.
different way of doing things. Maybe I offer a prize to explore the possibility of what people with an outside perspective can bring in and allow us to do. And now I'm gathering people who maybe have not been in the staffing industry in our case, that are
Mhm.
helping me look at problems and solve them in different ways. Same thing
Yeah.
for pharmaceutical companies who are looking at drug discovery. It's this whole engine
Tap
of
talent from anywhere.
human-centric design.
Yeah, this whole notion of tap talent from anywhere. I remember probably a decade ago, I came across Incentive.
Yeah.
It's one of those idea sourcing platforms from the crowd, and they, offered 25 grand if you could solve a problem, and people solve these things quickly.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
One of
Finally,
the
up to the power.
most progressive organizations in doing this out there right now is NASA.
NASA, huh? I didn't realize.
If you look first, I think the one that gets the most publicity is SpaceX. That was a challenge that was put out to the marketplace, and we just got to experience seeing what Tesla was able to do with them and through collaboration. But they also do it on a lot of they call it an open innovation environment, and have become really big around that in just, let's open our minds to what's possible, and let's experiment and try some things in a different way to see what we can do, to pull through that. And what they're finding as well is you get into organizations, and this is not just NASA, it's others, is all of a sudden I'm capturing the people who are focused, the purpose of what I'm doing, the meaning behind what I'm doing has become that much more powerful.
Yeah.
So you're getting 100% of me when I'm committed to the purpose and the meaning behind an effort versus, hey, Frank, you've been assigned to that project. You've been voluntold to do that work. Yeah. Fine, I'll do it. That opens up, really energizing the individual underneath everything that's going on.
And this, this opens really the window into looking at what is a leader in this era. If you're going to really lead from anywhere, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
And so many leaders have struggled in the movement from an office to actually a kind of lead from anywhere environment. And I was thinking about it, and I said, this really highlights the fact they weren't really leading. They were managing, because honestly, if you were able to inspire people in the office and you knew it was one of your goals, lead from anywhere would not have been a challenge. Almost like a chess player who one day was thrust in online and used the same strategy and tactics to win games. They weren't equipped, many of these leaders, because they were managing, they weren't leading.
Yeah. And I think that's, whether, and I can go to conversation with our own CFO, who was talking about, he was shocked, never would have thought we could close our books with everyone working remotely around the world. Yet we did.
Yeah.
And he got to see his team react and respond differently. And does that opens your mind to saying, okay, I can lead in a different way. But so often, we get comfortable on the path that we're on. That's why are paths, worn down in certain areas, is because we get very
Great
comfortable
analogy.
going down that. And this opportunity to be forced down a different pathway, it's fascinating watching those leaders who are kind of getting comfortable being uncomfortable, that are seeing, okay, wait a minute, this is something a little bit different. And it's not all for good reasons. Some of the social unrest that we're experiencing, we're two white men.
Yep.
Having conversation about the racial inequity that's come out in the marketplace is something that causes a level of discomfort. But what it's also led to is a much greater confidence in talking about an inclusive environment.
Yeah.
That allows people to bring their whole self to work, wherever that is.
Yes.
And when you're tapping into, again, all of me, you're going to get much more output.
Totally. Belonging for everyone, inclusion, that real deep sense of belonging.
Yeah.
So you give 110%, right? Hey, I'm on the team. I love it.
And that's also opening up areas. One of the other things that we're really seeing in this human agility spectrum is the idea of education and experience, and what we look for right now. And so education, I think we all get, the skills that we want and what we're going to capture along the way. What learning do I need? But the experience part, I'm not speaking to, do you have 10 years of experience doing? It's the experience I have in applying that learning. And that I have a broader expectation. Being in a textbook is fun. Okay, we can get through that, but I want to apply it. If you look at consumer behaviors, cookbook sales had kind of flattened out. But when people started teaching cooking classes, cookbook sales went up in direct correlation with the teaching, the classes. So I got to experience, I get to try these spices out. I get to see what's there. I get to taste it right away versus buying something and then hoping I'll try and do it. So the idea of having the experience as I'm learning has become a much bigger point in here. And I think you're going to see pretty dramatic change in our education system, our public education system, especially higher ed, in rethinking, do I need to stay on a full semester model? Do I need to look at microbursts of learning that are going to happen in 5 weeks? Do I need to rethink these internships and the opportunity to apply the skills while I'm learning them to gain a better sense of whether this is theoretical, this is practical, do I enjoy doing this so that I can try more things?
To even apply it.
Yeah.
And you look at leadership, people say, hey, let's build a more cohesive, collaborative environment, and you could read about it, but you can also read about golf. Eventually you got to swing the club, right?
Yeah, I'll never forget my father-in-law when he had not played golf, and he came down. We're living in North Carolina now, and he took him out to Pinehurst, and he wanted to play golf. He said, how hard can this be? It's a same round ball, and you only got a select number of clubs. You just keep hitting it. I mean, it's straightforward, isn't it? And,
oh boy, that could be.
Let's just say it didn't go as well as he thought.
Yeah, I know my son didn't take after me. He's a really good golfer. So, you did some interesting research recently, and 6 trends came out of it.
Yep.
The consumer expectations, changing work, why this is important to understand now within the larger context. Maybe we could chat a little about those 6 things that came out of that. I thought it was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I'll be happy to hit on these. And what we've tried to do as we've gone through, Frank, it's one thing to have research. Research is always good, and I'm a data geek, no question about it. I love getting into both the qualitative and the quantitative aspects of research that's there. But there's also an underlying question that you have to ask at the end of each of it. So what do we do? What do we take into action? So as we look at each of these topics, let's make sure to kind of say, okay, so what are people doing differently as a result of this?
I like it. What does this really mean?
And then what do companies need to do? Because those aren't necessarily in alignment is one of the things that we found along the way.
Okay.
So the first topic is about being human.
Yeah.
That you dive into, that this idea that all of this technology is coming about is also reinforcing the need to be human during this point in time, that the aspects of critical thinking, algorithms are wonderful in being able to pull through some stuff, but they're also not covering everything that we need. There's an aspect of really understanding what's there. There are huge risks associated with bias that's being created with this technology that's coming out. So the idea of taking the time to really look at that and measure it becomes a really important factor. I'm trying to look at, there's some pieces that are there, just like, think of the robots that are coming in to do work. You can go in, you
robotic
can find,
process automation.
But are we taking a bad process and automating it so we get bad results faster?
Well, that's right. And
or are we pausing to redesign the process and think differently?
Yeah,
I think about what we can do, what's possible, and not just industry 2.0 versus industry 4.0. I go back, it's Machine Platform Crowd is the book.
Yeah, I read that.
And what they talk about is in industry 2.0, the steam engine gets replaced by the little electric motor. And those first companies that deployed electric motors, they got nothing. They got no incremental gain. They took a big thing in the middle of the factory, shut it down, and they still had a big thing there. And they had a little electric motor next to it. It wasn't until Henry Ford and some others took the time to pause and say, wait a minute, this technology allows me to rethink how I'm doing things. It allows me to reinvent. And that's where your assembly line and the factory of today came about.
One of Ford's guys had been at a meat packing plant, I think it was in Kansas, and he saw them taking a carcass and moving it down with each person applying something. And he talked to Henry about it, and they said, we could do that to build a car.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
interesting.
So from a meat packing plant, I see how I can build a car. Okay.
Yeah.
So one, the ingenuity to go out and talk to other people is a big part of what's there. But then the willingness to think differently and say, I can do something else here. That's the big opportunity that's out there that we see when we think about being human in here. So the idea is, as we go through it, is to really take the time to pause and say, okay, what are the skills that we have to have inside our organization? What are the competencies that become really important for us? But then let's also take the time to understand our people a little bit more. And
Yeah.
do we understand them more than just the buzzwords attached to their name, whether that's a job title or it's demographic information or it's psychographic information?
Mhm.
Are we getting to understand the human so that when we're ready to focus on, maximizing their human potential,
Yep.
that we're doing just that?
Yeah, I think understanding the human aspects of the work environment are just so important. You know, you look at robotic process automation, people say, well, they're going to cobot. We're going to have people cobotting. What does that really mean? To me, if you automate all of this stuff, you put the robots in, processes evolve. The cobot would be the person who's there to handle the evolution of that robot, I think, to program it. The notion of everybody being able to program and really to build this digital enterprise.
But what do you need when you're going to go through that process? So I think it was our tax department was one of the first places we deployed RPA.
Uh-huh.
What did you need? Because if you think about it, you have tax codes that are very definitive. You're going to
Mhm.
follow the rules as you go through that, or a publicly traded company. So it's very clean and clear how you're going to go through that.
Yes.
Who knows that process best? It's our tax people.
The tax people.
So the people who were designing the process that was going to be automated and who said, here's where the process gets slowed down, here's where we could improve it. It was those people, it was the human experience and the knowledge that came about that said, here's how we could do it better.
Mhm.
So how do you introduce something like RPA in a way that's not threatening to the organization, but actually is seen as an opportunity? You mean, oh, you can take this mundane stuff that's a pain in the rear end that I really don't enjoy doing, and you can do that so that I can free myself up to do the fun part and really think about these aspects of things, or free me up to do other activity, or make the time crunch that every tax or audit department is under, during the
Oh,
season,
big time. Speed it up. Yes.
more available.
Oh, I think it's great. Yeah, there is so much mundane work that people won't have to do. That's one of the great benefits of this.
Yeah. So the second topic is connection and collaboration.
Mhm.
And candidly, that goes right back to Henry Ford. And the example of the meatpacking company that you brought up there is, are we making those connections in
Mhm.
different environments? And are we looking external to our organization for collaboration? Or are we so focused on what we do internally that we're caught? And being in the workforce space in what we do, we're seeing a lot of this now with companies just asking the question of, where is our IP? How do I look at things differently? It's at General Motors, they recognize, the autonomous vehicle is going to reshape who they are. No question about
Oh,
it.
huge.
But do they need to own all of the IP around making the vehicle drive autonomously? Or is that going to be largely the same technology that does it at Ford, GM, Chrysler, Honda, Toyota, etc.?
Mhm.
And maybe it's the experience I have as a consumer of how I get in that vehicle, how it greets me, the
Mhm.
comfort I have in being there, the ability to take control if I want it. Maybe that's where the true value is going to come about, that's going to cause your product to be differentiated. Well, that's radically different than maybe where the mindset had been historically.
Mhm.
So what labor I want internal to my organization, what labor I'm going to bring in for projects and different activity, how I'm going to package that work changes dramatically as we think about that. That forces us to think about, where are those alternative collaboration points that I need to look at? And then how do I package the work so I do protect my IP properly and don't give too much of it out?
Yeah, well, I agree with you. When you look at that technology, the fact that everybody will be offering an autonomous driving car, it's not going to be the reason that somebody goes out to make the purchase.
Yeah.
Get
No,
it
no, no question about it.
like tires eventually.
Yep. Yep. So then the third topic is about purpose and meaning.
Hmm.
And this is one where um, individuals have made it clear. They are willing to take 25% less salary to work for a company that truly has purpose, that fits what I want as an individual. So that search for purpose and meaning has become very evident inside the environment. Look to the Edelman Trust Barometer as a great measurement tool that will speak to expectations we all have as individuals and as employees and as consumers out in the marketplace. Wellness is clearly one of those big items that's out there right now. And so many companies are getting caught declaring their purpose, but then we've got to ask, is it authentic? So, in your opening reference, we connect people with work in ways that enrich their lives.
Hmm.
I was having a conversation with our CFO, and he said, well, then don't fill any orders that pay less than $25 an hour because you're contributing to the working poor.
Hmm.
And that was an open challenge by Olivier to not to say don't fill the orders, but to say, what are we doing to help move people from wherever they are to earn a living wage so that they can have a better life, so that we're truly enriching their lives. So it causes us to say, if we get that person who's at that low end of the spectrum, they just need a job to pay the bills today.
Sure, but they want momentum. They want to
Let's get them there. How do we create that momentum? How do we make sure, hey, I got you there at 15. Is there a course that you need to take? Is there some learning that you need to add in so that your skills are of greater value in the marketplace? It's going to allow you to go from 15 to 18, and then from 18 to 20, and from 20 to 25. However that is, different people are going to have different motivations, but are we making sure that we're genuinely working our way through that? And so organizations are being challenged now, those who feel suddenly a little bit of power, that there's an available supply of talent. Are you going to suddenly revert to paying people below market rate
Yeah.
because the supply is available? And how long do you think you're going to keep them when the market settles back out? I think those are things that you're seeing that authenticity revealed today.
Yeah, I mean, people are not just seeking passion and purpose. They really are looking to lead a better life. And the reality is that they are going to leave to find a better future.
Mm-hmm.
So that's short-term thinking. And, I'm sure we're going to see some of that. It's out there now,
Absolutely.
but it's not
Absolutely.
sustainable.
And some organizations will go through that. And I feel for every small business out there that's fighting their way through these chaotic times that are out there right now.
And,
So
talk about sustain. Now we get to the next topic, right?
yeah, sustainability versus sustainagility is where we put it out. We all know that this focus of short-term versus long-term, and how do we make sure that we're able to maintain that momentum that's there. And it's not just sustaining status quo, but it's maintaining and sustaining the agility that gives me the opportunity for that continuous momentum and what I'm looking for. So do we know enough about our workers to know that those are things that they're going to be looking for? So it's back to, am I being human? Am I understanding that? Am I understanding what people are experiencing right now in their life? All the different identities that they're bringing to work. It's the people who are homeschooling, have 3 and 4 kids in their house, have another partner in the house that is also working there, that are all working their way through, but are all striving for something more. That's a difficult situation, and we can't afford burnout. So we burn people out in that, we're going to lose all momentum along the way because everyone's just going to let go. So how
This
do
is
we
why wellness is so important. You've got to add that to the mix. That is,
how do we really pull back on that and think about the implications there for our workers? And that has to be a conscious effort inside an organization to make sure that we're doing that.
yeah, I agree. Great study, definitely.
So the fifth one gets into education and experience. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but that idea of continuous learning, the 60-year curriculum. We can go through all the different terms that have been put out there, but lifelong learning is something that we all have to have. What's
Reality.
lacking in the market, though, is the quid pro quo that says, if you get this, if you learn this, you will yield this as a next step of momentum. There are over 730 different credentials that you can earn in the United States. That's a crazy
Boy,
number.
that's a big number. Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten a little bit out of control, and we need to think about that way of connecting the learning with the experience of using those new skills a little bit more. And I think you're going to see a lot of change there. Clearly, the expectation has been established by the worker at this point, and I think organizations are starting to figure out how to tap into it. And the institutions where education take place, they're also going through this disruption, and they're figuring that out.
Yeah, it's a huge disruption because on-the-job certifications really make sense. It's the
Yeah.
applied use of that learning in an actual environment. We have to get it done that's the evidentiary basis of the fact that you are able to do something.
As long as that certification is reusable. We
Mhm.
have too many certifications where I became certified to do my own thing, or something for my company, but it's not reusable somewhere else. That's a gap that I think we've got to really work on, and that's a personal passion area of mine.
Mhm.
So the sixth topic is one that I would hope we're all learning and adapting on ourselves. And that's this rethinking of the whole service economy. It was when we focused on consumers, talked about cheerleader brands. Think of all the different things you can get done on your phone today.
It's
You know, if you
unbelievable.
need someone, if you're running a small business and you want someone to set up a website, if you want someone set appointments for you or meetings for you, if you want your groceries delivered to your front door right now, if you want your dry cleaning picked up and brought in, we are learning all different ways that the market can help me get things done. And I would just challenge every company to recognize, if you're doing it in your life, understand that your workers are doing it, and now ask yourself, how are you introducing that into your own wellness programs, into the services you bring to your own workforce, so that they can feel more productive and get things done inside the environment that they're operating in.
Mhm.
The different, whether they're human bots or they're chat bots or they're automated algorithms that are feeding things, it's really opening up a different way of thinking
Mhm.
about services that are available to us that make me happier in life, that allow me to feel better about what I'm doing. Yeah, sometimes I'll take money out of my pocket to have someone book a weekend. If my wife and I need to get away, we
Mhm.
need to go somewhere where we know we can be socially distant. We want to be able to have our dog with us. We want to be able to see things that are there, but I don't know about the community that's maybe 3 or 4 hour drive from where I am. Can someone help me find that? That
Mhm.
service is available now. Pretty cool to kind of figure out and say, hey, thanks. And I also get the diversity of thought, because it's not just what I historically knew or what my friends and family told me I should do.
Mhm.
It's maybe what someone else thought I could do that I might enjoy, that maybe allows me to see things that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I love how simple it has become to do so many things that used to be
Yeah.
just a headache.
Yeah. It's very, very cool in the marketplace. So those are kind of 6 different topics that we see that are really having an influence on how human agility is brought to life for the worker,
Mhm.
and where organizations have the opportunity to help, I guess, enhance that life, which is only going to create stronger engagement. And we all know the engagement scores tell us, the more engaged I am as a worker, the better output I'm going to deliver for my organization, the more likely I'm going to stay and contribute. And whether I stay as a temporary worker, or I stay as a full-time worker, or as I stay as someone who consumes your product and comes back on a regular basis. That's another one that I think maybe an upcoming phase of research we got to look into is redefining, what does retention mean? Because
Mhm.
it's not owning and controlling a worker, it's maintaining a long-term relationship with that worker. And I think that's another really big shift that's ahead for companies and
I do
organizations.
too, caring about them as a human being, especially as we look into this gig economy where, work isn't a place, it's something I do. And who do you do it for is really up to you. Things are going to open back up, the world's going to recover. And the reality is people are going to have more
Touch
choices.
wood somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to the world reopening and having the freedom and the flexibility to do some things. But in the meantime, you know, we've all read about 1968 or 1969 and how this country changed and transformed and
Mhm.
all of the learnings we got out of it. It was I hear this was a gentleman from NASA. I'm going back there, who Steve Rader, who shared. He said that of all the scientists who have ever lived on this planet,
Yeah.
90% of them are alive today.
That's amazing.
So if we think about that, think of all the innovation that is ahead for us. Think of all the things that we're experiencing and this change that people were resistant to, and we've just adapted to them. We have accelerated our adaptation, our own human agility, our
Hey,
willingness to try and experiment different things has been forced through an accelerator, whether we wanted it or not.
yeah.
And if we can take the time to pause and appreciate and respect that and know we're living in a period of time that history will look back on and study and marvel at what we've done along the way, that's a pretty exciting piece of time to be part of. I'm excited to have
Me too.
kids that are a part of it and enjoying it and watch them do things that amaze me each and every day.
I look at the things going on around, us in the world, and I see this explosion of passion and innovation. I see people, the mind of the maker, able to create things because there's so many tools out there that are coming that are low cost. The need to have big factories, set up data centers, all of these hurdles that you had to get over and barriers to entry are really going away. And individuals can have tremendous influence and they can find like-minded people online and essentially create something and come together and set up a virtual enterprise quickly, deliver things to market, reach customers anywhere at any time. It's amazing what's possible today.
If they're willing to imagine. So that idea, how do we make sure we're nurturing that curiosity, that imagination? There's a great Harvard Business Review piece on, focusing on a culture of growth, which is
Mhm.
about enabling your mind to see what's possible, but also enabling people to accept failure
Mhm.
and not hide it, not hide from it, but to embrace it and the learnings that come from it. Because we all know we learn more from when we fall down than
Big
from
time.
when we're standing up the whole time. It's a wonderful time to be part of this earth.
Yeah, I mean, we're living through an incredible time. I think we're lucky to be alive, to be able to witness this.
Yeah,
Change.
and hopefully contribute in a positive way. And know, um, I guess I don't want to undermine or not respect the people who are experiencing real challenge right now, because there are a lot in the world that are
A
there,
lot of suffering out there right
and
now.
hopefully we can help them find that baseline stability that they need and help get them on that path to momentum, because there is so much good that can happen when we're channeling our energy in the right ways.
Yeah, we should care about each other and our mutual success as a society. I mean, we have to. We got to lift everybody up. There's no doubt.
Amen. Amen to
So,
that.
listen, on that note, I'd really like to thank you for coming on. I don't know if you have a parting thought or something that you want to share with our audience before we say goodbye, but
Well, I just think it's that idea of agility, and take the time to focus on yourself. Take the time to think about what does it mean for you. I wrote, I guess it was back in the April timeframe, I wrote a commencement address to all the graduates of 2020, and I consider them the graduates of life.
Mhm.
As we're going through things, we're experiencing this change. Now is the time to try some different things, to experiment. There is a natural tendency to pull back and to be nervous, to protect what you have. And I understand that, I respect that. But take the time to experiment, to figure out what is enabling you to get the most out of yourself And don't be afraid to share that, so that you can bring that, because that's what I think almost every organization out there is looking for, is to engage their workforce as fully as they can. And they don't necessarily know the right way to. So challenge yourself to look at the things you're doing in your human life, your consumer life, bring them into your workplace. And for all the employers out there, make sure you're challenging yourself in that same way to look at the things you want in life and bring it to your workforce, not just to yourself.
Yeah. Well, listen, I love what you and Kelly are doing to make a difference in so many people's lives. So keep up the good work, huh? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Frank. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.